And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
We go, ladies and gentlemen. So glad to be here with all of you on a Tuesday, live in Denver, Colorado. This is the Snake Sports Talk Show, wherever and however you may be watching and listening. Thanks for making this part of your day. It's got to feel great to be in New York, doesn't it? The New York Knicks are officially in the NBA Finals. Plus, we've got Stanley Cup playoffs, the Western Conference Final. Will the Golden Knights sweep the Colorado Avalanche, or will the Avs survive to live another day? We've got a great guest list here as well. Former MLB catcher Cameron Rupp is going to be joining us, talking more about the state of the Philadelphia Phillies and, of course, in the state of Major League Baseball. And also, former NFL linebacker Gary Reasons is going to join us here on the program as well, discussing the Giants, the state of New York, and then not to mention a couple of teams that can very much surprise us. So, first of all, let me just start by saying congratulations to the New York Knicks, who last night, I mean, this series was over. I mean, you watched the effort, you watched the chemistry and the communication between the Cavs, and I'll get to them in a second. But that right there last night proved a lot of things. Number one is, this is so good for the state of New York. It's also got to be very good for all of New York media, because when was the last time we ever even seen the Knicks in a final? I don't even think I was, well, maybe I was around by then, but I was only just yay big. And then you think about years ago where you got Patrick Ewing, you have a lot of really good Knicks players. This is special for the entire city of New York, and especially for the New York Knicks and for Jalen Brunson. This whole entire series and getting to the final in this season has been very important and special for Jalen Brunson. You know how many times, and I've been listening to medias all around, how people don't think Jalen Brunson is a number one in people's eyes. How the Knicks, every time when they get into this situation, do they honestly prevail or do they kind of fold? Was it kind of easy after the Boston Celtics got eliminated and now the Knicks are in the final? Look, many things can be true to a certain extent, but let's not be disingenuous about how this Knicks roster and how the team, they all believed in each other. They all found their chemistry. And at the same time, there were all other pieces that were also contributing, not just Jalen Brunson. I mean, you know, I've got my reasons about Karl Anthony Towns, but offensively, he's really good. And by the way, Landry Shamet ended up draining 14 points, multiples that were at threes. He had a lot of points last night. And not only him, but OG Anunoby, everybody was all contributing at the right time. So it was meaningful for Jalen Brunson because of how much crap that he had been getting up and on media to finally prevail, and now has taken the Knicks to the finals. The other thing is, think about the head coach, Mike Brown. Did any of you remember that he got fired twice out of Cleveland from 2010 to 2014, and then comes into New York after New York fired Tom Thibodeau, which many people were very questionable about that. But in the end, Mike Brown helped to put all the pieces together, and New York came out, and they played. For Cleveland, there's a lot of things you got to think about, because I saw such bad effort. I saw not a whole lot of communication with Donovan Mitchell and with James Harden. So that is important. And I'm sorry, but look, I think the Cavs today kind of feel a little bit regretful about bringing in a guy like James Harden into the mix, but that's another story for another time. But today, it feels great for New York, and it feels great for the Knicks, because here's the thing. The Mets are not really giving you much. It's nothing but a circus show out there right now. And the Yankees, yes, they are leading in the East, but remember, they haven't won a World Series since 2009. The other thing is the Islanders Matthew Schaefer's got a promising future. They might be something. The Rangers vastly disappointed a lot of people, even with Mike Sullivan as the head coach. And the Jets, and then the Giants, and we'll talk about the Giants here a little bit later on, but this is good for the city. It is good for the media. It is also good for the Knicks and for Jalen Brunson. I'm happy for everybody. And I think, depending on the Thunder and the Spurs, this could be a hell of a series. Like, I'll admit, I have not watched a ton of basketball up to this point, but it got better the minute we got to the conference final, and now we're going to get even better with the NBA finals. Like, I've been watching more of the Stanley Cup playoffs than I have of the NBA, but this has been really good. So this is an important game tonight for both teams, between Vegas and for the Colorado Avalanche. And I live in Colorado, and I can tell you right now, every Avs fan I have come across, left and right, are sorely disappointed by the way this team has played. And yes, you do not want to go winless in enemy territory. And then, not to mention, Cale Makar was dealing with the shoulder injury. Nathan McKinnon, by the way, he is playing tonight, had an aggravating pain on his knee after taking a puck there. And then at the same time, like, you had a 3-0 lead in the last game in game 3 and coughed all that up, and you lost 3-5. Now you're already getting heat with Jared Bednar and how his play calling and how some of his decision making. In fact, I remembered in the last game during the season, or during the series, where Jared Bednar was about to call a timeout and the player said, no, don't do that. If you call a timeout, you know who you're giving more momentum to? The opposing team. They'll be well rested. They'll be changing the lines, and they'll be playing physical. But I do believe this is a reality check for the Colorado Avalanche, and for many reasons, because you're supposed to be the best team in the NHL, and they won the President's Trophy. Here's another fun fact. You know that the President's Trophy winners have not gone on to win a Stanley Cup since 2013, and you know who that team was? The Chicago Blackhawks. And Patrick Kane and Jonathan Taves and Brent Seabrook and Marian Hossa, that team was relentless with Joel Quenneville. So everybody in hockey understands there's a curse to this thing. And the Avalanche, I'm not throwing any shade. This is a really good team, but they're not playing like it right now. And I know many people are like, Jake, come on, don't be giving Colorado a bunch of crap. Look, I will be honest and real, even if it means it's brutal. But you got to understand, you got to look at the lenses. In fact, game 2, did anybody see up top in the stadium in Ball Arena where Joe Sakic, a former Stanley Cup champion, okay, looked down there and saw the performance from this Avs team? And when the Golden Knights ended up getting a game-leading goal, he shook his head and he left the building. You know, if you've got a former Stanley Cup champion for this very organization leaving the building because he does not like the way the performance has gone for this team, there's something wrong. And yes, that is important to see, because this is not what this team was supposed to be. Nathan McKinnon, Gabriel Landeskog, Nazem Kadri, Josh Manson, all these guys are supposed to be hitting on all cylinders. Brock Nelson. By the way, I saw a graphic that between him and one other player up and onto the offense, that in 22 playoff games, they've only scored a combined 3 goals. They have been tearing it up all regular season long. That is not what you want to be, especially in the biggest, brightest lights in the conference final. That's not good. So who knows what Colorado's got in store tonight? Because I guarantee you, Jared Bednar had been getting some heat from the front office. I guarantee you the players have been getting heat from the media because, like everybody, Guerrilla Sports, Denver Sports, and even Altitude Sports have all been speaking out about this. So tonight is important. Will the Golden Knights prevail and sweep them and go to the Stanley Cup final for the 3rd time in franchise history? Or will the Colorado Avalanche honestly find some new life? By the way, Vegas has been in this position before where they were 3-0, and there were times where they played the Dallas Stars and they won that thing in 6. And so the whole narrative has been the Knights in 6. First round, Knights in 6. Second round, Knights in 6. Could that be the similar narrative, or will it change tonight? It's going to be a great matchup. So I'm excited for it. Cameron Rupp around the corner. Like I said, I've been having such a great time talking with former Major League pros. And to me, with the ABS system, there's a bunch of surprises, but also getting firsthand what's happened in Philadelphia to where they've turned the switch, but it's not over yet. I mean, the NL East, it's a great race right now. So I'm excited to hear a lot more about his thoughts up and on the break. All right, folks. Well, I will tell you, this has been amazing about how sports, and we're only coming up and around the corner for the World Cup. But we know that the start of it, you want to start the year off right. And so I have been harping this a lot. And our great partners at Slapple, where you get nicotine gum, which is longer lasting flavor. And by the way, they are also doing a big outreach because number one is the leading cause of death in the United States is lung cancer. And that is connected to all of these cigarettes and vaping. And by the way, here in the state of Colorado, they have passed a law where they are outlawing vapes to teenagers because teenagers have been getting their hands on this stuff and it has taken a toll on their lungs. Not a good look. And also really increases the death toll. And that's where Slapple has come in to help slap the nicotine cravings because yes, it is a very addictive substance that can really hinder your addictions, especially when it comes to the brain, the brain process and such. Change it up and slap your cravings today with Slapple, where they come in 6 different delicious flavors, longer lasting, and to help to lower down the death toll of lung cancer as well here in the United States. So check out Slapple for yourself. Slap your cravings today with Slapple.
Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts that get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
So the Major League Baseball season has had a bunch of surprises and a bunch of disappointments this year. And I'm very happy we've had at least a mix of both, but also some of the teams that you clearly predicted that this team would be really, really well done as far as their roster goes and how they've been panning out. And so joining us, and of course, a team that's really flipped the switch, the Philadelphia Phillies. We really are excited to discuss more about that. And a former Philly who knows a thing or two what it is about playing in this very city. Cameron Rupp joins us here on the program. I talked with many people and there's been many surprises and many disappointments that's happened this Major League Baseball season for some teams and for some players. The Philadelphia Phillies found new life the minute that, you got a month in of this thing in April. And then, to be honest, and this is just me being brutally honest about this, but when I watched Rob Thompson manage, I didn't really see too much of the gritty, fiery manager I'm so used to seeing like some of these. And it's no disrespect to it, but it's like you've got Bryce Harper, you've got Trey Turner, you've got Kyle Schwarber. This team they should honestly be producing much better than what they're doing. But when Don Mattingly, a respected former player and manager who comes into this role, has now flipped the switch, Kyle Schwarber is already leading the league in home runs. Bryce Harper, maybe he's hitting the gaps. He's starting to score up and in the runs. So when you see a turn of the switch like this, and this is early in the season, like we've had times where mid-season coaching changes happen, and then late in the season in the NHL, they've had coaching changes with 8 games left. And so with this kind of feels like there is new breathing life into this organization now after the change.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me on, but here's my take on it. So, something had to change, right? What was going on wasn't working. You can't fire 26 players, and not to mention 26 superstars. Pretty much is what they have over there, and that roster. And so the deal is somebody's got to go, but at the end of the day, like, Tom's is awesome. He was there at the end of my time in Philadelphia, but I don't think it's anything he did or didn't do. I think those guys in the clubhouse realized individually, I just got somebody fired because I'm not producing and I better turn it on. That's my opinion, what I think, what I see, and what I see in that ball club. Kind of a wake-up call for them. They needed to get the ball rolling. I hate to see that it cost somebody their job, but it's a business at the end of the day, and you got to get that team rolling.
So I was talking about this previously up and on the show, and we've already had a month in. We're getting ready to be close to 2 months into this thing. But the new ABS system that got rolled out here into the major league level, I think has been an absolute game evolver and a game changer. So over 4,000 calls were made, Cameron, and only 875 were overturned. That's not even including the potential challenges that could have been or should have been called by the pitcher and even for the batter themselves. So I think what it's done, and I've spoke with many former players about this, where we're not necessarily picking on the umpires, but what we are doing is it's putting them in a spotlight where there's accountability and accuracy involved. We want to see at least a great fair play game. And at the same time, like we've always heard the saying, right? Like referees, umpires, like they often will control the game depending on what we got ourselves into in this position. So I'm liking with how this is working. I think the accuracy is pinpoint. And I'm just waiting until we get in the postseason when this thing rolls out, because I think you're going to start to see some of the smaller market, not even just the bigger markets dominating, but the smaller markets that are just smart enough to utilize this program and to really use it to the edge where it's a inning ender for a pitcher, or you kept an offense alive because of where you won those challenges.
Absolutely. If you really think about 2 things go into play. First of all, you think about how many pitches have been challenged and how many are overturned. That's less than a quarter of them. 1. 2. So it goes to tell you just how good some of these umpires really are, and the size of the miss, right? And then the player's eye, right? But in all of that, the strike zone has completely changed, whereas now it is more conducive to the player, not just a general area. Like it is a set spot on the player from height and from the lower part of the zone to the top part of the zone. Obviously, the width, it's 17 inches. That's not going to change with the size of home plate. But once those guys start getting into understanding kind of a strategy behind it on the pitches that you're allowed to challenge, and the ones that maybe I don't want to take that chance. It's really close. If I'm wrong, a guy later in the game with the game on the line, it like you said, it could end an inning, it could keep an offense rolling, and then who knows what happens at the end of it. You get into the postseason, there's going to be some of these teams that are just really big in the technology end. They're going to have a strategy for it. Certain players allowed to use them, maybe some players not. I think they're going to probably take into effect the guys that understand the strike zone the most. The guys that understand the strike zone are going to be the ones that use them. The ones that know themselves, they know they're they're going to look into, hey, these guys were 90% successful when they challenged the pitch, or this guy was, below 50% on his pitch challenges, and he had some ridiculous ones, right? Like, they're going to take into effect the strategy in it and the technology that'll, help decide who can control the strike zone the most. You're going to get pitchers that are going to get away with stuff a little bit more as opposed to just rearing back and letting it eat. You're going to get some guys that their numbers are going to go through the roof because they do have an understanding of the strike zone and they're not getting rung up on pitches outside of the strike zone. So that instead of a strikeout, it becomes a walk or a hit. So there's going to be a change in numbers, and I think we'll start seeing that the more that the ABS is used.
And you played in an important role at catcher because, I mean, there's a lot of things that are running through your head, right? You're looking at defensive shifts. You're also communicating with the pitcher as far as, what does the umpire see? What am I seeing? How are we setting up to, righty, lefty? Like, how are we trying to get ourselves out of jams? And so, you think about this, not only just with the ABS system helping with accuracy, but even for pitchers who are trying to get used to this thing. Like, if you were up and into this role and you're there speaking with a pitcher who was trying to obviously find his sweet spot or get his groove to where he can continue multiple innings, especially for starters, because we know that there will be days where he's locked in, not really want to get him out of his groove. And there's times where 2 innings early, you just gave up 8 runs and you're trying to figure out, well, I guess it's a bad day today. Like, when you're in that position, like, what are some of the key elements that really help to keeping a pitcher on his A game to getting out of certain situations and then longer lasting throughout the game?
One of the biggest things, you talk about is a lot of it becomes toughness, how they can handle adversity. And there's how do you, just knowing the guy, have the relationship with him. What is he good at? What's he not good at? What, the strengths that he brings, like, I'm going to get beat with my strengths. I'm not going to get beat with my third or fourth pitch. I'm not going to put myself in a position to throw these pitches when he doesn't have a feel for them. Right? Like, you gotta find a way to be able to mix it in and be able to find ways to make an ineffective pitch in his mind that he doesn't have a feel for effective to the hitter. And just being able to be a game manager for him, be able to understand, like, hey, this is what you do well. We're gonna stick with it, and we're gonna work this in. We can't can it immediately. We still got to throw it, but hopefully throughout the piecing together, you're going to find a feel for it, and then all of a sudden you kind of unlock a little cheat code that guys hadn't seen for 3 innings, and now here we go. You got a secondary pitch that's working, and it's all by the day, man. Pitchers, starters especially, you got 30, 35 starts a year. 10 of them are going to be really good. 10 of them are going to be not really good. And then you're going to have to find a way to make 10 of them above average, right? Yeah. Give yourself a chance. Give your ball club a chance. And those 10 that you're finding a chance, man, those are the hard ones. Those are the ones that you gotta coach them through. You got to get them confident in what they're doing, and not letting it turn into a really bad outing.
Yeah, no, 100%, because it does really take a toll mentally, especially when you're trying to find your grip on certain pitches and then trying to get out of innings and like too much is going on. And you're kind of trying to figure out how to shut the doors. So in order for you to then retain your focus and trying to get yourself, back into position. So I'd never gotten a chance to ask this, but I figured I would as a Texas native yourself, I've been on this topic about, the NIL and what it's doing for many different programs. And I mean, Texas, we already know that we talk a lot about with college football with what will Arch Manning look like, this up and coming season, and is Sark's job on the line because of just the performance and the outcome that it's looked like for the Longhorns. But I've talked more about the NIL, what it's doing for football and the basketball program, but I never really touched upon, the baseball program because we were so used to your Texas, your LSU, your South Carolinas, and even for UCLA and the UC schools out in California. So, looking at Texas, they've produced so many really good players out of this program. And when you think about striving to a College World Series championship, right? Like all it's got to take is your star powers of the guys that you can trust and can get you there. And then even for the youngsters that you're building within the program. So I'm not sure if you look more into it, but what does it kind of look like on the outside perspective with NIL and what it can do for college baseball per se, and how it can help further develop and build players as we're kind of going into now, like Connor Griffin and multiple other youngsters who are ready to play now and really make impacts in ball clubs. I mean, there's still a tier walk you have to go through to get to the majors, but how this will better improve the product as, the NIL now adopted, how it can work as perfect relationships between college ball and for Major League Baseball.
Yeah. The NIL, it's great for the player. Right. Like it's tapping into a market that's always been there that the NCAA has never allowed, for whatever reason. But it's funny because in baseball, the game still has to be played. The NIL will get you the players. It will allow teams to come. You look at some of these schools. I mean, the Texas, the LSU's, the South Carolinas, who's kind of struggled the last few years, but the Tennessees, the Arkansas, the name brand schools, right? That you see, like they're going to get the top tier player, right? And that's, they're able to buy some of those draft picks out and allow some of those high school kids that are going to be draft picks that are going to sign for, I don't know what these guys are throwing around, maybe $500,000 or, maybe one on the lower end at, 250,000. They'll be able to buy some of those kids out and go play in college for 3 years. And then, you know what though? It could also be a shorter track to the big leagues, because you get into those big power conferences. Those guys are as close to big league ready as some of the players in Double-A. Some of the players, a handful of them Triple-A. I think there's still a learning curve once you get into the pro side of the game. College are only playing 55 to 70 games max. The minor leagues is doubled, and then you get to the big leagues, it's 162. And so there's a learning curve in all that. You get there, you learn it's an everyday thing. You better be there to post every day. That's what's important. That's what getting those guys from the college level to the pro level to the big league level. It's that's a game changer. Being able to do it every day. And 7 days a week, 6 days a week now, the way the minor league schedule is. But you get to the big leagues, some days it's 7 days a week. But you've got to be able to manage that, to be able to do it. So in that case, you can get the players. you can develop, you can get them as close to ready. But there's not going to be you can't play 144 games in 55 games.
No,
Like
100%.
you can't feel that. So like as much as it's very close to, players are not far off in some of those bigger conferences. Not all of them, some of them, but you're gonna it's the grind of the 6-month season and being able to really do it and post every day.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't even agree more. And so, yeah, I mean, it ultimately, like, I love the fact that the players themselves are getting paid for the hard work that they're doing out of and onto the field, because I think it feels right. But eventually, you know, I've always said this about college football, is that they need to get a CEO in this building to make it consistent, to have a structure, because the more the money continues to increase, sometimes could always often knock on everybody's doors of, I need to get paid. I need to get, you know, it's trying to keep the consistency of it for all respective programs and for many of these schools. Because, man, these coaches, I cannot imagine being in those shoes where you're thinking about this 24/7 on top of recruiting, on top of transfer portal, and then on top of trying to build a roster to where you're trying to win these games as much as you can, to whether speak out for your conference or even just, you know, play in these postseasons. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough grind and a challenge, but I think if they do make the right moves of this as years pass on, I think this will be better for the sport. And I also do think it'll be a complementary to the big leagues, because of the fact that we're getting these players who are now shaping and molding and forming themselves into greater ball players for the future. So, really, I think it's going to be fantastic. But Cameron, appreciate you for coming on by, man. This is a turn of the switch for Philadelphia. Let's see if it pays off for them further down the stretches here this season.
I hope so, man. I still enjoy watching those guys, and I'll be watching.
Love it, man. Appreciate you for coming on by. Take care of yourself, man, and we'll see what the rest of the season has for us.
Will do. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, we're switching gears now up into the NFL. And listen, it is a great day to be a New York fan for a multitude of reasons, whether you're a Giants fan that just can't wait to see John Harbaugh really do his work here with the Giants, the Knicks, who are officially in the finals, and God, I can't even remember how long, but discussing it more about the state of New York and the Giants and much more. Former NFL linebacker Gary Reasons joins us. I want to start with this, Gary, because this is a great day for the city of New York for multitudes of reasons. I mean, the Yankees are leading up in the AL East, and I mean, it's unfortunate with the way that the Mets have panned out, and then, the Nets, and even for, in hockey, I love Matthew Schaefer for the Islanders. I think they've got a bright future. But how good does it feel that a team like the New York Knicks are officially in the finals for so long? Like, that's got to feel so uplifting for a city that is very brutally honest about their sports teams, and they wanted to see some sort of page turn, and I feel like the Knicks are giving that to where now you're previewing for the next season for the NFL for the Giants, in which if they get their stuff together, man, this is going to be well talked about for the next couple of years.
Well, you got to figure out, there's things that happen in bunches in New York, and when baseball's doing good, when basketball's doing good, just look at those football teams. That there's been a little bit of a camaraderie there that's happening to them. So congratulations to the Knicks for what they've done and how they've conducted themselves throughout the rest of this season. They get a little bit of rest here, which is good. It's going to help them and they can also watch and learn from potentially the two opponents that they have. So I think it's a good time to be a Knicks fan. You had a lot of excitement. I saw people partying way too hard out there. I think it's they carried it on pretty well there.
It's funny. I was thinking about it. I have some friends that are up in New York. I even have family that are up there, and I've been there 6 times, right? And the only thing that I'm thinking of is like, look, everybody's going mad dog nuts up and around there, especially in Manhattan. And my only thing is look, don't go crazy on all the water dogs, okay? Same me one so that way I could savor it for you guys, and then we could just play on, in the finals. So, so I was thinking about this. So John Harbaugh comes up and into the building for the Giants. This is a much needed turn of the page. This Giants organization needed. They needed to build consistency. They needed to reshape a culture that I mean, for a while, like when Tom Coughlin was in this building, you knew what you were getting with the Giants. And so, I mean, I'm not saying Brian Daboll didn't try hard enough, but it felt like there was something missing that this Giants organization needed to put a finger on. And I think John Harbaugh is probably the perfect example of a guy that can set a culture, a guy that's been there for 18 years. So with him in the building, I think you're going to get the best for the important players that that they can tap in, get better, and especially now with Jackson Dart and with Cam Scatterbo up into this offense. But I also think guys that are former Baltimore Ravens players coming into New York kind of gives you a little grit, a little toughness. So, with seeing this, I don't think there's going to be immediate success in New York, but it is going to look a lot better and a lot more efficient as we go on through the season, right?
Well, immediately when John Harbaugh steps in the building, there's one thing that he does when he steps in front of the team for the very first time, and he has it. It's called instant credibility. Okay, been there, done that, won championship. This is it. Okay, so there's no trying to figure out, does he have it or does he not have the ability to lead a team into where they want to go, and that's going to be deep into the playoffs, obviously, and into the potential Super Bowl. So I think that Harbaugh is really a very good fit for the Giants right now at this stage of how things have come together. The previous coach, I don't think he was a real good fit, to be perfectly honest with you, and it basically showed with how things orchestrated across the team, him and his coaches, him and some of the players, and it was just kind of a murky thing there, and it was short-lived. But now you're on to a new chapter, and I think that Harbaugh has a very good chance to really bring this team together because he knows how to win, he knows how to structure, and he's going to get behind his players. And I think that what Harbaugh has shown is that he has been able to bend his offense or defensive systems over time to fit what his players do best. You only have the 50, 60 guys there to choose from that you go through with camp and everything else. Then you got to find the right ones to come together and be there. And what is your offense going to look like? What are you going to look like, on first down, second down? And what do you want to show? And what is that going to look like? Defensively, it's going to be the same thing. We talked about the offense a little bit here with Jackson Dart and, bringing the receivers in. But now you've got some tools on defense as well. They did not lose in this draft with the defensive side. They've got some assets there that they can play with, and I think it's going to be a really good situation for the defense to really at times lift up this whole team and carry it on its shoulders when it needs to.
So before we get into the draft picks with the Giants, because I do think the Giants really did get some plug-in guys that can really shape up either side of the field. So this is kind of tough. And I kind of feel for John Harbaugh with this because you just got here. You're trying to, shape up all this stuff. But I won't go too deep into it only because everybody has their opinions and such, and everybody has their stances. But when I look at, the whole media talking about Jackson Dart and Abdul Carter, here's what I say is, first of all, and I'm sure you've known this, you've even experienced this maybe, in winning championships, representation of the organization. But I look at it this way. If you're getting this invitation where you're going into a building and being represented by ultimately the president of the United States, right? Is it a representation? To me, I don't see this solely on Jackson Dart. I kind of see it as you are a representation of the organization in a sense to where, New York, it's a big sports media market. And not to mention, there's a lot of things that do go on in the city and in the state. But my big thing is with Abdul Carter, right? He goes through a rookie season. You're getting ready for year two. And I just look at it this way. Everybody has their stances. Everybody has their opinions. But if there is something that's really bothersome, is there a way in which to handle this? I'd say communicate about it and then figure out how do we get on the same page when we're up and on in the field. Like if you're that fiery, I look at this, then show that up and on the field this upcoming season because you got to contribute towards this. So, I mean, what do you think about it? I mean, I don't want to get too deep into this, but I think to me, there are more important elements, in my opinion, with this and how the Giants could really take the steps forward to really kind of show for that to be a strong winning culture team in their division.
Well, I think that the writing is on the wall right now with the Giants, and that is they have assembled pieces, both offensively and defensively, to give them an opportunity to succeed. And now it's in the hands of the coaches. Okay, coaches, really what their job to do is to put players in a position for them to succeed on the field. Yeah. Obviously, there's some things moving around the Giants right now, and some of the things that are happening outside of football, which is superfluous. And those things do happen. It's everything is magnified in New York with the lens that everything is on. So just take it with a grain of salt. Don't worry about it. I think that John Harbaugh and company are going to be able to kind of shake those guys into a cohesive unit, and I hope that they can, simply because it's better when New York is winning football games.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
And if they can get that done, a lot of those things that you're hearing about go away. The first thing you talked about it here is he talked about culture. Culture of a football team is real. And let's don't forget about that, because when players walk into a stadium and they walk into the locker room and they're amongst their peers, they're amongst their coaches, every single day, you guys become a team. And there's a lot of structure that goes into it. There's a lot of things that go into play here. And that's what you're trying to develop, a team unity and a team-centric offense, a team-centric defense, and just make it very, very plain and simple that this is our job day one. This is what we're supposed to do. Unfortunately, players make some decisions outside of football on their time off when they do things. And everybody's got to be grounded here and there. But it makes for big news when it's in New York and Manhattan. Things are happening. So I don't worry. I don't lose any sleep about that. I've had players, my teammates, do some of those things, and it didn't hurt us really in the long run. We got a couple of championships under our belt.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? You built a cohesive team to where it was like, Bill Parcells. I mean, look, to be coached under Bill Parcells, right? I mean, he was very straightforward, can be strict at times, but at least he was real with his players. And so that's what I would love to see, at least with these players. So I couldn't agree more up from that. So I had talked with your former teammate, Mark Collins, and, kind of got his idea of just with the draft, and this was beforehand, where they needed to fill in spots, especially for defense. And, what I look at with Arvell Reese, I look at this front seven. No Dexter Lawrence, but that doesn't mean that they can't adjust and then they can make it better. I think what it does is that it allows for someone like Kayvon Thibodeau, who we know is predicated against the run, where he could step into a front and contribute from there, and allowing guys like Abdul Carter and Arvell Reese to just strictly be the outside edge rushers. I mean, you're already getting a guy who had a bounce back year in Brian Burns. So when you see this with Arvell Reese, what are you really looking for that he can contribute to that the Giants have really been needing to do on defense to apply pressures, get sacks, and find ways to get 3 and outs, especially against the run?
Well, when you look at Arvell Reese, and you got to look at these guys right back here, every single one of these guys right here, 6'4", 245, and we could run. That's what Arvell Reese can do. And he can play in any position, whether it's off the ball or whether it's on the edge. He can really do what the team really needs him to do. And obviously he can go down the field also with his speed. So he is a tremendous athlete. That's first and foremost. So there's options. The team, it gives him options. And so when you got bookends with Carter on one side and Burns on the other, I think that they're going to be fine there. I actually think that you're going to use Arvell Reese off the ball. He's going to be more of the middle linebacker type in the Giants offense. That's my take on it, because I think that's where they really want him move. Now, when it comes to third down, they may move him around a little bit, potentially, being able to catch one of those guys coming down the field. But I don't think that there's going to be an issue with talent there. Now, you talk about the big guy, big sexy Dexy getting out of there, and now you have a couple of acquisitions that the Giants have gone with a defensive tackle. I think they're fine. Those 335-pound animals, just push those guards back. I think you're going to be just fine. But then the Giants can play just an umbrella defense around that front. The front seven, I think, is really what sets up the Giants for success this year. They've got a couple of things that they're working on the defensive back end that I think once that comes together and that's cohesive, then they're really going to have I think possibly one of the better defenses, definitely in the NFC, and really going to be one of the elite in the NFC East. So I think the Giants defensively are setting themselves up for success. And then with the offense, I think it goes back to the school of old, almost like Bill Parcells and how you run that offense. The offense is what we had back in the 80s and 90s was don't make mistakes, and it's okay to punt on fourth down. It's all right to punt. Because if you've got a defense that can play, which I think that this defense is going to be able to do and keep the Giants in games, then that's what you might want to have. You might want to have a mindset of not necessarily always going for the big ball, although that is the rules today in the NFL. Throw the ball down the field and good things can happen. Either A, they're going to catch it, a contested ball, or two, could be a penalty. And three, you're going to move the ball down the field, whether it's by penalty or big play. That's what the offenses are doing today in the NFL. A little bit different there. Instead, we had back in our time, it was more of a running style and play action pass game, and it really was predicated on moving guys around instead of just trying to be explosive and moving balls down the field, which is what they do today. But I think the Giants have set themselves up to where they can handle things effectively up front as a defensive line, then also in the secondary. But I don't see too many holes in the Giants defense right now if everybody stays healthy.
And what's funny is I mentioned to Mark that, to me, I know this Giants offensive line has improved, but I'd love to double down on that. And I think getting Francis Mauigoa was a really good pick for them because, you're seeing how teams are building their foundations to protect their franchise quarterback, and then not to mention opening holes for the run game when you've got Tyron Tracy and Cam Scatterbo. I think Francis coming in helps a lot with double downing what they've improved on and then what they're still improving today. And you're giving Evan Neal one more chance up and onto this while you have Andrew Thomas as your star tackle. So I think with the way that I look at this, John Harbaugh played this game in Baltimore where it's physical, win in the trench game every time that you're up in situations. And the other thing that it also correlates is because he had Lamar Jackson, a more twitchy, a much more finesse type quarterback, that even if he didn't have too solid of a pocket presence because he moves around, and then when he throws it, he got better on the throw. So when I look at this for Jackson Dart and the rest of this offensive build, I think you are going to see mobility, and I also do think you're going to see pinpoint accuracy, especially when you've got Isaiah Likely, you've got Malik Neighbors, you've got options. So I think you're going to see a little bit of this predicated offense, much like how Baltimore did. Ground and pound, find ways to keep the offense on the field, and get accurate when we need to stretch the field.
There was a lot of fun going on in New York when Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo were healthy and together back there in the offense. And all the Giant fans were really hanging on to the edge of their seat simply because we want to see what is next. And it was rolling. That show was just about to get going pretty good. And all of a sudden, the thing happened to Cam. So unfortunately, that didn't fully develop. And then obviously with the quarterback going down with the way he did a couple of times, I think that there's kind of been a little bit of a pause there on really what he should be doing and what he should not be doing. But one of the things that I've learned over the course of years in the NFL and quarterbacks and players at large is that you make your biggest jumps in years from years 1 to year 2 to year 3. It is light years when you understand the pace of play, when you understand what you have to do day in and day out, and it becomes routine for you, and you then become part of the program instead of somebody trying to fit in. So if you're already fit in there, then you can really excel and then take off. Now, I see that happening with a few players. We mentioned a few of them early, but early getting started, I think that they need to make sure that they're completely comfortable. And I think Jackson Dart's going to have a sensational season following what he did a year ago. At least we saw a glimpse of really what can be a fantastic offense, and hopefully Cam's going to be back at full strength.
Yeah, and my thing with Jackson Dart is like if they can clean up some things, like I know he's been in the blue tent multiple times, but if they can clean that up to keep him available on the field, and then not to mention like just in the style of play, then I think this Giants offense could really turn around and could definitely surprise a lot of people. So I'm excited for this. I know you are. I know the rest of New York is really excited for this because they needed this kind of push. They needed this kind of momentum. So we'll see what happens up from here. But Gary, appreciate you for coming on by, man. I'm excited for this season. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, this is my book here. Came out in March. Reasons to Believe. Check it out on Amazon. It's pretty cool. It's got getting the rave reviews out there. So, thought this is a broadcaster's lens for my 30 plus years in the broadcast booth, my 9 years in the NFL and my business career. So all of it is in here. It's not a sports memoir, but I tell it through a sports player's and broadcaster's lens. It's more of a leadership mindset. So take a look at it.
You know what? I need to get a copy of that because here's my thing, right? I mean, you've been there, you've done that. And my biggest goal is I eventually want to get into television and radio broadcast because I mean, we're all about sports here, but also a fun entertainment. And at the same time, we just love to just kind of get into the minds of like what it's like being there and just really increasing the experience behind it. So I definitely got to get a book. And that was very creative. Reasons to Believe. I love that. I love that title right there. Now you're giving me a reason to believe up in it.
You can do it.
There you go, man. All right, enjoy the rest of the week, my man, and we'll see what the Giants season has in store for us this up and coming year. Take care, my friend.
Take care, Jake.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I love that. Man, what a heck of a title. That right there, like I can it's awesome when you can see former players that come in and they're in, they're in the scopes, like up and in, the broadcast booths. And we see a lot of, former players are up and in there today. And so I think this is going to be an exciting year for the Giants. It should be. And many New Yorkers out there who have been waiting for the Giants to really come up with a spark, excitement and such, this is a great opportunity for them to do it. So, so we got about a couple of minutes up from here. So this has been a really great series between Carolina and the Montreal Canadiens. And Carolina was able to finish it on yet again another overtime win. And my big thing is this. I have been saying this for quite a while when it comes to someone like Rod Brind'Amour. It truthfully is important when you have a coach that has been a former player, that has won a Stanley Cup in the past, and is really trying to, get over that hump as a coach, because it's tough. And my takeaway of this is I think this has been a great series amongst the series we're going to watch tonight. And I think mostly Vegas flipped a switch before they got into the playoffs. And as they've been in it, and with the 8 remaining games that John Tortorella has been there, the Golden Knights have been playing a lot better. In fact, they pushed a lot of the players. Mark Stone, Jack Eichel, Mitch Marner is playing out of his mind. But the Carolina Hurricanes, like they've got such good players up from here. Andrei Svechnikov, Sebastian Aho. Like this team they're pretty relentless. Let's be honest here. I think there's a chance in which Carolina could go through this series, and it was not easy to begin with, but Montreal, I think, still have a couple pieces in hand, but I can't discredit with what Martin St. Louis has been able to do. So it's exciting. I think it's going to be a great series thus far. And as far as the Stanley Cup final goes, it could be an even matchup. Finally, so there's news talks right now up in Arizona, and the Cardinals right now have a lot to really look into. Jeremiah Love, their first round pick, getting a lot of attraction with as far as special team, full running back duties, all that. And now there's teams calling about Josh Sweat, who had 12 and a half sacks the past season with Arizona in his first year. And teams really want an edge rushing upgrade. And there's a bunch of teams that I can name up off the bat. I mean, the Chargers could really use somebody up into the edge rushing room in case if somebody goes down, there's somebody there and you can plug in and play with it. But we know that they have their rookie, Akeem Mesidor. But in the end, you want to be able to have a strong edge rushing room. And I mean, I do think, like, even the Packers could even end up using another edge rusher themselves, but there's lots of options. But the Arizona Cardinals, I think it's clear. You can see with the change and adjustment that they are needing to make and what they're trying to make. But right now it's like, again, there's so many moving parts into this that, you know, you got Carson Beck, who's been taking a lot of snaps, and then not to mention too, like you look at Jacoby Brissett, there's multitudes of things happening. But I think for the Cardinals, really all it is you just got to cross your fingers that this organization just gets it right, because it has been a long time coming for them. There hasn't been much to really look forward to as far as hope-wise goes. But hopefully with Jeremiah Love, it gets people excited. And, you know, again, if teams are entertaining the call, then hopefully it'll be well worth the price. But that'll depend on it. All righty, folks, we are jumping out of here. Really appreciate all of our guests here, Cameron Rupp and Gary Reasons, for coming up and onto the show. Great minds, great insight. I'm really excited for all of it. And we always are here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. All righty, folks, enjoy the rest of the week. We will see you guys on the next episode of the Snake Sports Talk Show. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you soon.